How do you go from standing in a muddy field outside Bristol to building one of the most successful wave pools in the world? How do you go from starting with £500 to raising over £30 million in order to realise your dream? We're going to be digging into all of that with the man who made this particular dream happen, Nick Hounsfield.
Today, I've got an unbelievably awesome guest. He is Wave Maker Nick, who actually came up with the vision and everything on how to build the wave in Bristol. This is a story about overcoming adversity, about raising money when nobody actually thought it was possible. This is a story you're going to want to hear if you want to make your dreams come true. Why don't you introduce yourself to begin with?
So I'm Nick, I'm the founder of The Wave, and The Wave is a huge slice of ocean that we created in the outskirts of Bristol, in the north of Bristol.
Can you give a brief description and we'll kind of overlay it with?
Yeah, it's so it's massive. It's always much bigger than most people think. So it's almost the size of sort of 5 Olympic swimming pools in a huge sort of kite-shaped piece of land with down the middle is the technology that creates the wave, and then we've got a pier running down there. So when you go there and you go through the building, you suddenly get this sort of overwhelming sense of sort of where are we? Like this is super surreal.
Yeah.
With surfers and waves going left, right, and centre, and then be able to go and walk along the pier and be able to think, well, this could be a pier in California or somewhere. It's just really bizarre.
So a lot of this is about, for the people who watch my channel, it's about overcoming adversity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to basically live your dream.
Yeah.
I think if we go back, 15 years ago, you're an osteopath, right?
Yep.
How did he even come up with the concept of going, do you know what, I'm gonna ditch it all in and create a wave?
Yeah, it was just a bizarre set of circumstances. So yeah, as you say, I was osteopath, so I was working in healthcare. Love surfing, love water, love fishing, like anything to do with blue spaces. It was just a particular moment in time when my dad died, and I was just made a promise to him that I wanted to do something that would really improve, sense of happiness and healthiness for a bigger population of people that I was able to reach out to at that time. So over probably 3 months, I've started to go, right, well, how do we expand on that? And then started to think about, right, well, why are people coming to see me? Well, yeah, they have got aches and pains, but fundamentally they seem to be quite lonely. They seem to not be exercising much. They seem to not be connected to nature, green spaces, blue spaces. And you could start to see, like, okay, well, where are those spaces and places that people go to feel happy? Going, well, that's normally when you go abroad on holiday. So right. You go to the beach or you go to the mountains or what have you. You go like, well, that's kind of weird that we spend 50 weeks of our year working hard to go and have a couple of weeks to those places. Like, well, why don't we bring some of that inland? Like, well, let's create spaces where people can be happier and healthier. And then, absolute serendipity. I was just on YouTube one night, and I was consuming loads of sort of social surfing social media at that time. And that particular day, they just released this new technology in the Basque Country that they could make waves inland in a lake. Back then, it was a muddy pond, pretty much. But that just properly blew my mind. I was like, okay, that's inland, that's a lake, and there's waves that you could put there.
Perfect waves.
Yeah, and then seeing people surfing them, I was like, initially I was thinking if you could make waves, then that would be really cool. And then seeing somebody then surfing it, I was like, okay, that's completely, that was the moment where I just went, this all pulls together. And that's, I guess, right at the start of the journey.
From a business perspective, so we'll come into that bit right now in terms of fundraising, but the fundamentals are more waves you can put through in an hour, the more waves you're getting as a paying customer, right? And so therefore you feel like you're getting value, so you're not sitting in the lake so long.
It's more than that, it's actually capacity of the lake. So the more people you can get in the lake, so we can have about sort of 70 to 80 people in the lake at once, whereas other technologies, maybe you can only get sort of 5 to 10 people in there.
Right.
So that's, the occupancy and the capacity of the lake is probably the most critical factor in terms of, or you have less people, but you have to charge so much more, and then it becomes quite a sort of middle class, exclusive kind of place, which was never the vision.
So you start with £500.
Yep.
Right, but it definitely doesn't cost £500 to build.
No, it went up to sort of £30 million.
So how did you go from £500 to finding 30 million?
Slowly.
Okay.
did take time. I think the key thing for me, like reflecting back, is that having a very, very clear vision and why we wanted to build it. Once we realised that we could get a new technology, the sort of upgraded version of the waveguard technology that has that capacity, the occupancy to be able to fill it, then you go, okay, right, well, if we can fill it, 70 people every hour, X number of hours a day, through the summer season, it'll tail off in the quieter season and then really quieter in winter. But actually, that model works. And then we had to go with this sort of revised technology to the market. Really tricky to find people who take that initial risk.
Yeah. So they had to buy into it from the passion, right?
Yeah, they did,
and also
and we did things like sort of crowdfunder campaigns. So we raised, in just 1 month, about sort of £250,000, which showed the proof and evidence of the crowd, whether people wanting it and going, well, you're basically just selling a couple of CGIs and T-shirts, but people are buying this, they're wanting to.
There is a market.
So yeah, it's like going, okay, this is, there's a bit of reassurance for funders, and then slowly sort of building out until we had enough proper capital coming in to then go, right, we can now build it.
So with the mechanics of that, with Wavegarden, you were the first Wavegarden kite-shaped
of
technology.
this particular, it's called Cove technology.
Cove technology.
Yeah.
And they've iterated it now several times.
Yeah.
It's interesting seeing Lost Shore and stuff up in Edinburgh.
So I was the first person to actually put an exclusivity down for their technology. So I managed to raise £25,000, and I said, because they said, we need to take you seriously. We need some money from you, just so that we're like properly in it together.
Exactly.
So 25 grand was the ticket price back then to have an exclusivity of a very small area to then go, right, now you can go for it. Because they were absolute sort of brand new technology suppliers then anyway. They were absolutely right at the start. So that 25 grand was good for them.
You needed each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It was quite symbiotic.
Yeah, and I think because we had a very clear, again, sort of vision around sort of health and well-being linked to surfing, they were like, well, actually, if this guy's like extolling how amazing this is for health and well-being, that's an angle, we've only really been thinking about this from a surfing angle.
Yeah.
Actually, this opens up the market to a really much wider demographic. So it's like, okay, go for your life. And they knew I didn't have any money, so they were like, right, well, this is a significant amount of money for this guy because he doesn't have much. So it was a good commitment for them. It's good for me to then go, right, I've got 25k. I'm now going to have to pay back really soon. So yeah, I need to just charge on. Yeah.
So you got that 25k down,
Yeah.
and then you started the ball rolling. You did some crowdfunding,
Yep.
250 grand,
Yep.
and then you went and started talking to VCs, PE,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So like serious kind of professional investors started putting a team together.
Yeah. A really good guy called Craig came on board, who's probably far more sort of business savvy, business minded than I was. So we were sort of quite a good counterfoil to each other. So I was very much sort of purpose, vision. This is the value of what we're going to do, and being able to literally allow people to sort of see and smell the vision of it, and then somebody like Craig putting in, this is how the mechanics from in funding
Makes
perspective
sense.
will.
Okay.
So it's just that
So
worked
it
really
gave you
well.
the kind of almost the credibility and reassurance the investors needed.
Exactly.
You're like, yeah, we want the visionary,
Yeah.
the guy who's going to charge forward with this,
Yeah.
but we need like kind of an anchor as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
nice.
So we sort of built off the back of that. Then we built a team, and then we got first couple of decent investments offers, and that was definitely like a moment in time where suddenly you got this letter come through and said, we're prepared to give you £5 million. Like,
yeah, that's
God,
quite amazing.
That's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
And then that letter meant that we could go to others and go, we've got a commitment here. Are you in for this amount as well? And then it started to build. Yeah, started to feel like it could happen.
When you were going along that, raising the money, it's a challenge, right? You know, it's basically pounding the pavement day after day after day. So what advice would you give people who are just basically getting no's the whole time?
Honestly, I used to always just go away thinking, well, more fool them. Like, they've just missed out on something really amazing to be involved in.
I love
and having that confidence to go, this will make a massive difference to people's lives, and you've kind of said no to it. That's a shame for you. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I would never feel like resentment for it not happening. It was just more like, yeah, like why have you said no? That's crazy.
That is it in a nutshell, right? It's having that confidence in your vision.
Yeah.
But when you know it's like a real like burning vision, you're waking up, you're dreaming about it.
Yeah.
It's all you're thinking about.
Yeah.
If it's something where you just want to get rich, you're probably not going to have that resilience.
Yeah, exactly.
To constantly.
Yeah.
You know.
And it was based around a promise to my dad on the deathbed. So it was like, I was going to do it.
Yes.
I was just going to do it. Yeah.
So let's get into breaking ground, because I have heard. Now I could be wrong. This could be a quote that's completely right. But the shape of the lake is one of the most challenging concrete engineering structures to build. Is that right?
In my experience of one, no, it was really, really
because there's a lot of angles.
Yeah,
and you've got to get them right.
So when we first got the drawings, we got these plans of the most beautifully sculpted, rounded, surfaced lake bottoms, and we took it to the engineers like, right, this is what we need to build, and then everyone was just like, over such a large area, that is going to be impossible to build like that, because you will have to hand trowel all of the surfaces. It's going to take you years. So what they then had to do is go, right, let's break it down into lots of little segments and make sure, fingers crossed, that the waves will behave the same way. You don't, instead of having a sloping angle this way, if you've got two angles, that meeting point could be enough to break the wave up and not work. Yeah. So we poured like probably 5-6 million quid's worth of infrastructure into the ground, and we didn't really know whether it was going to work yet.
So, okay, so I've seen the picture of you putting the spade in.
Yeah.
But I'd never thought about the first time you turned the waves on. So you had no idea.
No idea. I was absolutely crapping myself.
No way. So at this point you spent 30 million. So
no, by then we'd probably put 25 million pounds of money in the ground. We had no idea whether it was going to work or not.
Are you serious?
We hoped it was going to work.
You had every best.
But
best guess.
Exactly. We were thinking, well, if we have to then drain the lake and shave a bit off and all the rest of it, that's something we might have to do.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, but it was, it would just, obviously the cost would spiral and all the rest of it.
And at the time, was it still the button in the lifeguard station at the time?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So somebody went up there, you guys are all standing on the pier, waiting?
So I had a whole load of the Spanish crew over for a meal, and that was the day when the Swan came on and surfed the wave. And so the very first thing to surf the wave was actually the Swan. Everyone was just working away, still building, construction going on in the background. They were pushing the waves and commissioning the waves, and they managed to get the waves like getting much bigger and starting to barrel and stuff. And then just two Swans just came down, and one was just like doing this, just checking it all out, and says, "Oh, I'm going to get this wave," and just turns. Gets all the way along. Building something incredibly artificial in this natural setting, and the first thing that rides the wave as a Swan was just like...
Was this time stressful for you personally? Did you find it stressful, or was it just such an amazing journey that you weren't actually that stressed?
Just ups and downs along the way, really.
Okay.
I think generally on the way to getting it built was just fairly steady. It was actually once we opened the doors for the first time, that's when it started to
stress level.
Yeah, definitely. That's the moment in time where I can go, that started to load quite a lot of stress. But I think for the team, but also personally, just going, what have we built?
Right. And a lot of expectations from people.
Yeah,
right?
huge expectations. We were absolutely trading on that expectation for years. And in many ways, that expectation is good, because you're going, right, I cannot fail now because so many people, you know, I'd be the laughing stock of Bristol. I probably would have, if it didn't get off the ground, I probably would move to a different city or somewhere, because I just would be associated as the person who didn't manage to build what they promised that they wanted to do.
The guy who did the DeLorean.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So yeah, there was a mounting expectation, but that was fine. I think the expectation was pretty much okay, and then it was just opening, and I hadn't realised that there was a real transition of, you know, the team positivity that we had through building something together, and we got to that end point going like, we've done it, and then you suddenly realise we haven't even started.
This
now.
is the beginning.
Yeah, just like, oh my God, we had thought about it, and particularly the operational team, because they'd been doing these kind of things or different sort of hospitality, leisure ventures previously, but I had no understanding of the enormity of it being just non-stop. It's just like all day, every day,
right,
dealing with customers, and the customers were great, but they just don't do what you think they're going to do.
Right,
when you move into, you know, moving around the space, and just and then trying to allow, tell people how to stay safe in a lake when they've never done something like this before, and behaviours, and people were bringing their sort of attitude from the beach into our lake, and it was just like going, oh, why are you acting so weird? This is a cool place we built. Like, why are you being such an asshole? That's really weird. But it just took time for people to then go, actually, you know, and that's about our wave makers, our staff, going, actually, that's how important it is for them to really create a really good culture that can start to change the way that people behave in the water.
As a customer there, I definitely feel that it feels like there's been a mind shift there in the last 18 months or something, where now it's not about just continual growth. It's about how do we make this the best space it could possibly be, from things like your membership, from things like, you know, working from the cafe and stuff. Yeah, it feels less kind of driven to how many can we make, but more, let's make this the best space it can be. Yeah, and I think, and what we realise now is that to build another one, there's a template, and there are more people who've done more of these now, that you can offload that responsibility to them else, because it is just a construction project. Actually, the more time we spend really understanding, you know, the offer, the experience, building a community, then you go, and expanding the community for people of all ages, all backgrounds, and all abilities, then you go, right, well, now that's the tricky bit. That's the really tricky bit. The construction stuff, now we've done it once, we've now got a template. That stuff is still being worked out constantly. And we just, you know, try something, learn from where it's gone right or where it's gone wrong, and just keep, you know, it's an iterative process all the way. And that's a very good point, iteration on it, because I think that's where I see a lot of businesses get stuck, is they go, this is the model, we're sticking with us. Yep. Right? And I think that's, you know, a really important thing, is you've got to iterate, and you've also got to fail. Yep. You've got to say, right, this isn't working, so we're going to change it. Yeah. So coming on to your personal adversity, because amongst all of this, you went through quite a few health issues. Yep. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, I had so we, you know, the build up to it was opening the wave in 2019, sort of October, November time. And then, you know, we were running around like our hair on fire for probably 2 or 3 months, just going, what have we built? How do we work this? This is crazy. But then it started to settle, and then we had like amazing bookings for the spring and summer. So a lot of people came and go, that was amazing. It's freaking cold though. I'm going to come back in September, in spring or summer. So our bookings were really good, but then of course we then hit the pandemic. So that happened in that March. So all of our bookings and everything sort of, we had to, you know, close the site and everything. And just preceding that by about 3 weeks, I had a massive stroke. One day, playing hockey, had no previous problems, and just suddenly was playing hockey one day. After about 5 minutes, suddenly couldn't speak, couldn't use my hand properly, just felt really weird. proper fear of God went through me, because I kind of, having a medical background, I was going, oh my God, I'm non-verbal, that feels like I'm having a stroke. And then there was a medic there. I was like, shit, I think Nick's having a stroke. We need to get into the hospital right away. So yeah, that was.
And you were young, right?
Relatively young. Yeah, for like 46.
Yeah, that is young.
Yeah,
that is young.
Yeah.
Most people don't think stroke 46.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And just totally out of the blue.
Totally out of the blue.
And it must have hit you and the family like, like a lead weight.
Yeah, it's just a very weird and scary time for us all, really. Yeah.
While your business baby is like, this vision is coming off the ground. It's in COVID. Everybody's like panicking a bit.
Yeah, exactly. We had to raise more money to keep it going. An extra sort of 5 million quid needed to sort of be bolstered to be able to make sure that we could be ready to open again when we can.
Right.
With obviously none of us knew when that would be.
Yeah.
So it was a really tricky time.
And how did you keep that positivity? That you have this natural positivity about you. How do you keep that positivity when like all the chips are down?
I mean that to me, particularly from the Wave perspective, is around the team that we've got built around us. So without a doubt, one thing I would say I'm really good at is pulling the good people around me, so that then protects me, but also protects the business, because actually you've got good like-minded people wanting to battle for the same goal, which is create this amazing space for people to be much healthier and happier together. And that's why they came on board, and that's what they were there to do, and they continue to do that even when I was away, which is great. And I do think of that that view of culture being how people are when your back's turned or when you're out of the game, kind of thing, for a period of time. That was really evident through that time when I needed to take a back seat to rely, to focus on my own health, but knowing that there were trusted people around the table just gonna battle on through it to make it happen. So yeah, 100% that is around the people around me, and I guess my part in that is just pulling together the right people with the right values who are wanting for it to succeed. But it's not. I'm outwardly a very positive person, an optimistic person, but without a doubt, I have like super down days along the way, without a doubt. And weirdly, going to the Wave is probably one of the things that pulls me out of that at times.
It's good that your own medicine actually works for you.
Exactly. And that was, I guess, getting back into the water was a big part of my rehabilitation and getting my speech back and everything. And that's then when, that was going on all the way through COVID. And I go, actually, like, we've got like a medicine chest here, like waiting. And, all of us then, had been, disconnected from each other, all the things that we love, sports, outdoors, and going, that's why we were so busy that first year when we were back open again. It's because nobody could go anywhere, and everybody wanted to they understood how, they had a newfound perspective around those things that they value far more now, is actually connection, community, and being outdoors, and how important that is.
Okay, well, let's talk about purpose-driven profit and, a term that I coin with you, which is triple bottom line. Is that right?
Triple bottom line, yeah.
So tell me about that.
So triple bottom line is actually a phrase coined by John Elkington, who's pretty much the sort of grandfather of sustainability. I mean, he coined the phrase sustainability. He's one of the OGs. Lovely guy. And I was introduced to the concept through another amazing mentor along the way called Chris Hines, who he was one of the co-founders of Surfers Against Sewage. It's around how looking at everything nowadays, particularly if you're looking at sort of big business, it's normally just the single bottom line, like finance. Like, are we making financial profit? And it's about then going, right, well, actually, what if there was a triple bottom line where we're looking after the people, we're looking after the planet, and we're looking after the profit? It's not in balance necessarily. There's always going to be trade-offs with different decisions, but making sure that we're at least putting all decisions through the lens of the triple bottom line. So is this going to make, if I sell this cup, is it going to make us, I don't know, £5 margin, and that's our profit? But if that's made in a sweatshop, the other side of the world, and then has that transport cost to get here, and all the rest of it, is that the right supplier for us? So it's like, it helps you to look at your supply chain, look at the way that you're dealing with your people, particularly your staff, but then also how you're going to make what you've got accessible to people who may be lower income, or maybe they've got disabilities. So it's just about making sure that your decision making is going through a triple bottom line rather than a purely money making bottom line. So that's the idea that we founded the whole vision of the wave on, and now is still absolutely embedded in our strategy every single year. Is like making sure any decisions you make that you understand, at least recognize that trade-off. And that sort of then has sort of born into some of the sort of B Corp culture. So B Corp benefit corporation, where you can actually benchmark how successful you are being looking after the triple bottom line, and you actually widening up your reporting style, so it's not every single year just going, this is how much money we made. It's like, this is the impact that we've made on profit, this is the impact we've had on people, this is the impact that we've had on the planet, and then try to make that as positive as possible.
So final two pieces then.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it a little bit, but building a community and a movement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I feel as a customer of the Wave.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying this as we first sat down, that some of the, the friends that I've built, we've got WhatsApp groups and this kind of stuff, but some of the friends that I've built at the Wave
Mm-hmm.
are closer now than I've had friends for years.
Yeah.
Years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a central pillar
Mm-hmm.
to your building this.
Yeah, 100%. It's because, that's when I was looking at people who were suffering with ill health as a healthcare practitioner, it was the loneliness that was killing people.
Right.
So I was like, well, if you've got a community that helps and supports you, and therefore you've got a reason to get out of bed to go to do whatever, but if it's surfing, great, or go to the Wave, and you're building that community, then you've got people looking out for you. You then also got WhatsApp group, and so you kind of still feel connected to people. You don't necessarily even have to be there. So it's just that building out of a community of people who are like-minded, like-spirited, and will help you overcome loneliness that will ensue if you're not connected to people. And yeah, just being able to see the ill effects of that, go, right, the prevention of that is to build places and spaces that you feel accepted into, and then you find your tribe, your like-minded people to then go, okay, you're here every Friday, 4 o'clock. I now know your name. Now I've got your Instagram handle. Now I'm, WhatsApping each other. Actually, now we're going to go on a holiday to Morocco together.
Okay, last bit for you then is the future of blue spaces
Mm-hmm.
and the impact they can have.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll touch on two bits. Where do you think the future of blue spaces is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and how are you going to put your fingerprint on that?
Yeah, my blueprint on them. Yeah. So the reality of, it's amazing what we've built at the Wave, without a doubt. I'm really super proud of it, but it is quite a hard slog to do it, and it's freaking expensive to build. So there's lots of barriers to entry to this, and you start going, right, well, what is it about the Wave that people love? And obviously there's the surfing bit, but that's probably only makes up a small proportion of the people that actually come to visit the Wave now, because we have like hundreds of thousands of people just come to be around the space, not even get in the water. So like, okay, well that's kind of cool, because they're walking away with smiles on their faces because they're looking at cool stuff going on around, they're eating good food, they kind of they're involved in this sort of vibe of happiness and healthiness and being outside. We need more of these spaces and open that up to more community who don't have access to it. So you go, yeah, but I can't build lots and lots of surf parks all over the place, and actually we don't need to build loads of that. Could actually just be creating new blue spaces. Could be lakes, could be lidos, could be natural swimming pools, swimming lakes. And as long as it's collecting people around water to then deliver great food, great community, get people together, might be around, amazing gardens around it. So it's just bringing that blend of green space and blue space together that you can create a community around. And you start going, right, well, we're an island nation, so we're surrounded by water, but most people aren't connected to it properly. So what else is out there? Like, there are harbour sides, there are rivers, there are lakes that are not being used properly. How can we actually, some of them, open them up to make them more accessible for people? Or potentially now, we've got a health crisis, a housing crisis and a climate crisis. Could we build new communities? So it goes back to this sort of what if. What if we built communities that are actually based around that sort of blue health philosophy, where there's water bodies and you're connected to water and green space, and you actually build houses that are affordable, healthier for you, and better for the planet? It's like, well, that will solve the health crisis. It'll help with the climate crisis and the housing crisis. Could probably do that all together. It just needs somebody who will pull together a holistic vision for the whole thing.
Right, and then we go all the way back to the very beginning of this. As you and I were saying, well, if you can build the wave,
yeah,
you feel like you can do anything. So
yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
What if?
To me, building the wave is going to be the single hardest thing I will ever done in my life. The scale of the ambition for these blue spaces and these new blue communities feels like, whilst it's bigger in scale, it doesn't feel so hard to reach now.
Unbelievably aspiring.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave it there, but it is that's amazing. If somebody wants to get in touch with you about that, if somebody's watching this and they're going, oh my God, I want to help you with that.
Yeah.
How do they get in touch with you? DM on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Wavemaker Nick, or LinkedIn. I'm always on that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yeah.